The Dallas Cowboys have three very intriguing undrafted free agents. We'll tell you who they are next.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is Landon McCool, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets. If your first bet wins, just head over to FanDuel.com to get started. On today's show, we are taking a look at three, we're going to call them high-profile undrafted free agents that the Cowboys signed a couple of weeks ago that we think have a decent chance of making the 53-man roster. We're going to talk about Michael Trigg. We're going to talk about another tight end that they actually gave more money to. But I want to start with maybe the biggest name here. That's Jordan Hudson. No, not that Jordan Hudson. Jordan Hudson, the receiver from SMU, who some people had as a top 30 receiver in this class. Landon, I know you watched the tape over the weekend. What'd you think?
Yeah, a real interesting guy. Cowboys certainly have a type, it feels like, when they're drafting in the back end of the draft and or addressing free agency, because it does feel like, and really they have a type that they shop for, just kind of generally outside of the high end guys that they shop for, and it's usually someone who's like over 6 foot to 6'1.5", 190 to 210 pounds, right, with decent length and some hand size. And this guy falls into those categories. He's got really decent size and bulk. I didn't actually get a chance to look at his testing numbers, but he very much appears to be a good. Do you have him in front of you? Actually,
I do. Yeah. So 6'0", so 6'1", 191 pounds. He did not do anything at the NFL Combine, only did positional drills. But at his pro day, he actually got up to 200 pounds, ran a 4.58, 32-inch vertical, a 10.2 broad jump, 4.4 short shuttle, and a 7.21 three-cone. If you look at the relative athletic score, it's actually very poor. I believe it was 42nd percentile, but you don't see that on tape.
No, and I think that the thing, I'll tell you why, is because I think he's an extremely kind of natural player, right? He's got a very, incredible play posture. He plays with a good forward lean. When you see him running on the field, he doesn't get held up a lot. Like a lot of guys that run 4.4. They take bumps and shoulder shots and just kind of physicality from the defense, and it slows them down, right? And they don't always get to show that speed very well. This is a guy who does a really good job of kind of slaloming through defenders without losing speed. He's just very kind of smooth. He's a very smooth athlete, and I that speed that you gave me kind of makes sense, because like he doesn't seem like he's a sprinter, but he seems like a guy that if you could find a way to kind of further refine his technique a little bit, he's just so kind of natural, right? Like one of the first plays I saw him was against, I think it was Clemson, and he ran like a really deep post route, and he just kind of caught it in stride over his shoulder, and he never broke stride. And just the way he tracks the ball over his shoulder, and he kind of just does the hard things very well, like very easily. I think he's just, one of these guys who, maximizes his athleticism in a way that it's hard to measure, because he's just so like I keep using the word natural, but that's what it is. Like he just looks very comfortable doing everything that he's being asked to do, and he doesn't get disrupted in mid route. He works through physicality well. And on top of that, he catches the ball well. Now, there's still a lot of stuff he needs to work on. Like he's not necessarily, for someone who plays like this, you'd hope that he was a little bit better blocker. You'd hope that he was just had a little bit better kind of understanding of what he was doing as a blocker at times. And I think, in the pass game, if you're not going to be a speed, guy that takes off the top off the defense very well, then you need to be really clean in your routes. And I feel like there's times when he kind of rounds things off a little bit, but just the way he moves around the field and operates, I think gives you hope that there's something there if you can find a way to develop him a little bit. I thought he reminded me a little bit of Ryan Flanoy, except just not the same kind of athlete, just not that kind of speed.
And I've seen a couple other comps around him, and he's not as powerful as like what Michael Gallup was coming out of college, but I think in a lot of ways they win the same way. Another comp that I saw at least a little bit is like the Juju Smith-Schuster that we saw like in Kansas City, not necessarily in Pittsburgh, but like a guy that can play all three receiver spots, can be physical, not a great athlete, but still manages to make plays after the catch. And that's one of the things I noticed. It's like, and he can be a bowling ball after the catch. He's so good at running over defenders. But I think my favorite part about him, Landon, he's just so good at the catch point. And you don't have to be a superior athlete to win at the catch point. Now, are you going to be able to run enough routes to create separation and all that kind of stuff? We'll see. But one of the things that Dane Brugler pointed out in his The Beast, he's very coachable. He's a hard worker. And you're going to kind of have to be if you're an undrafted free agent trying to crack this roster. And that leads me to my next question. What's the path for Hudson here? Because the Cowboys gave him quite a bit of money here in undrafted free agency. You've got CeeDee Lamb, you've got George Pickens, Ryan Flournoy is the clear-cut wide receiver 3. And then it gets a little messy. It's Kevontae Turpin, it's Jonathan Mingo. Does he have any chance of making the roster this year?
I think he would have to have a pretty exceptional camp, right? I think I think this is a long-term development guy, right? Like this is a guy that you kind of, you put on your roster as a practice squad, hopefully would be a great situation for him, right? This year, he comes back in again in rookie mini camps and you see what you've got in the off season. Maybe he's, worked a little bit with one of these wide receiver gurus. Maybe he's gotten his speed up a little bit, his routes a little bit more refined, because I do think that if he were able to get another offseason as a professional, I don't think he's going to be able to achieve it this year, right? But if one full offseason as a pro and fully focusing on his craft a little bit more, like you said, very coachable guy. I do think he has so much kind of natural ability and fluidity and that smoothness that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And you said he's just naturally good at high pointing the ball, about arriving when the ball arrives, catching the ball in stride. You don't see him waiting for stuff or getting there late, right? He understands and tracks the football very well. So if he could just kind of refine things to the point where he can consistently use that smoothness to get open on a higher regular basis, I think he could be competing for a wide receiver 4 or 5 spot next year after, we see what happens with George Pickens. Does everybody go up a rung? Do you have more opportunity now that maybe Flanoy is your wide receiver 2 or something? So, just in one of those scenarios, that's how he would eventually, get some playing time on the field.
And honestly, this is why it's a good situation for Hudson, because he's not going to be forced on the field as a rookie, right? He's going to have time to develop. And you look at what this wide receiver room might look like in 2027. You've got Jonathan Mingo, who was on the last year of his deal. I don't know if Kevontae Turpin will be back after this year. That remains to be seen. I think last year was a pretty rough year from him as a returner. I don't think anything beyond this year is a given. It would not be hard for him to kind of crack the top 5. What I want to see, Landon, is during training camp in the preseason, how does he compare with someone like Trayshawn Holden, who was the big ticket undrafted free agent last year? If he's steps behind Holden, that's where it could get tricky. But if he's already ahead of Holden, and honestly, I think he will be, that's how he could be one of these surprise guys to make the 53-man roster that we're not anticipating.
Well, that's how you get a Ryan Flanoy, right?
Yes,
everyone's where did you guys get this 5th round pick that kind of developed out of nowhere? The Cowboys have been taking, small swings at undrafted free agents and late round wide receivers for a long time. And every once in a while, they've done a pretty decent job of developing all of them, but every once in a while, one of them really hits, right? And they look really good, right? I think that they're going to continue to take swings and take bites at that apple. I'm mixing my metaphors, but they've got a lot of these guys. You're right, Trayshawn Holden, like, and they're they drafted another guy in the 7th round. They're just going to take swings at this position because it's developing into such an expensive position. And honestly, you need superstars, you need top end guys to the roster, but you also just need a lot of these guys who can be functional wide receivers in the NFL who know your system. So I think they're just going to continue to take chances on these guys, see who sticks and see who kind of burns out.
All right, let's talk about an undrafted free agent tight end, not Michael Trigg, but a guy that actually has maybe a better shot of making the roster. I'll tell you about DJ Rogers next. This episode is brought to you by Rocket Money. If you've ever opened your bank account and wondered, where did all my money go? You're not alone. Keeping track of subscriptions, spending, and bills can get overwhelming fast. And that's where Rocket Money comes in, helping you take control of your finances all in one place. Rocket Money tracks all of your subscriptions in one spot and can help you cancel the ones that you don't need with just a few taps. It automatically categorizes your spending so you can see where your money is actually going, and you can set budgets, get alerts, and stay on top of upcoming bills. It just makes everything feel more organized and gives you a clear picture of your finances day to day. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel unwanted subscriptions. It'll help you monitor your spending and will help you lower your bills so that you can actually grow your savings. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position that you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed sponsored jobs help you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping that the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours have already made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So spend less time searching and more time interviewing the candidates who actually check all of your boxes through Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to give your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. Don't forget to check out the Everydayer Club for ad-free episodes and access to a group chat with Landon and I and other listeners of the show. Tap the link in the show notes or go to lockedoncowboys.supercast.com. All right, Landon, let's talk about a really interesting prospect, DJ Rogers, a tight end from TCU. 6'4", 258 pounds, but he actually lost 13 pounds from the combine to the pro day. I don't know how that happens.
Yeah.
Good job for him. Ran a 4.65 40-yard dash. You watched the tape. What'd you think?
Well, first of all, I wanted to point that specifically out, that he had lost 13 pounds from the combine to his pro day somehow, but
in like 16 days, by the way. Good job for him.
I don't think so. Here's what I'll say. I think if you look at his tape, like, he looks, I put 250 pounds because I just have a hard time believing, looking at his tape, that he's anything less than 250 pounds when he's playing football. So, and what you see is he's a little bit of a shorter but solid built tight end. I mean, he's like 6'4" even, right? But he is like really stacked up top. And he's got a really thick torso. He's got big, strong arms. He lines up at the Y, but he's multiple as an F or an H as well. He's extremely physical at the point of attack. He can latch on and drive his feet. But you also see that kind of big, heavy nature when he's out as a receiver, right? He's not savvy as a receiver. He's not short area, really explosive. He does use his big body well to kind of box out defenders. You see him do like a lot of stops and slants where he's just like turning his body around like he's a power forward in the post, right? Like, and he's just calling for the ball basically. But he isn't necessarily a guy that you're going to want to, run an option route to, or any kind of double move or anything like that. He's just really a big body operating out there. And honestly, a lot of his game in many ways reminds me of Brevin Spanford. And it feels like this guy is kind of just another, the next iteration of Brevin Spanford kind of coming down the pipe. So definitely also, I think, a special teams player. If he makes his way onto the practice squad, gets called up one week, I could easily see him, running down on special teams or kickoffs and punt coverage, that sort of thing. So I think he's going to be eventually a useful player just because I think he's going to be a blocker. He can do a lot of different things. It'll be interesting to see what, where he is as far as ready to go, playing as far as what his role will be this year. There's a lot of it's a crowded room right now. And even especially with the other undrafted free agents that they got here. But I do think that, if the Cowboys, they gave him a lot of money, like you mentioned. So I do feel like he's likely to at least be on the practice squad if they can get him on there. But I think he's likely to see snaps. And I think he's going to be somewhat effective as a guy that comes in as a third tight end who can, be a blocker. And like I said, special team stuff specifically early on in his career.
Yeah, I got a couple stats for you. 83% of his receptions in 2025 came within 10 yards of the line.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you see that on tape. Like, it's just a lot of underneath stuff. So, I mean, you wonder, like, how far behind is he as a route runner? And that's another thing I wanted to mention. He's an overaged prospect. He actually came from Jamaica, I think, early on in his life, made the transition from basketball to football.
Yeah, you see it.
Yeah, and you see it. It's just, you're talking about somebody who's going to be 25 during their rookie season, who I don't think is ready to play right now. What's the upside here? Like, is he already athletically maxed out? Can he get better as a blocker? Can he get more, refined as a receiver? We'll see. Lunda Wells loves having projects like these on, the back end of the roster or on, the practice squad that honestly, they help a lot of times for like scout team stuff as the season goes along, to have different body types and different types of athletes. I think it's a stretch to think he could make the roster in 2026. But we've been surprised before. Brevin Spanford made this team. Sean McEwen made this team not that long ago. Like, John Stevens was going to make this team as well before multiple injuries. So I wouldn't completely rule out the idea of him stealing a spot.
Absolutely not. No. And look, it's funny. My last note that I forgot to mention is exactly confirming what you talked about. Not a fluid mover, better in short areas where he doesn't have to open it up. And that's it exactly. He just looks clunky as an athlete once he has to really start running a little bit, right? He's just not that kind of guy. I will say this to your point about his age. I think this is the kind of player where his game will age extremely well.
Yes,
I mean, we've seen guys like this, play into their almost 40s, right? So I'm thinking of you, Washington. I think, honestly, it's one of those situations where I do think that it's probably, again, going to be a struggle to make the team, like you said, this year. But can he be on the practice squad? Can he give you some snaps, being called up as your practice squad guy, like a couple different weeks as he's developing? And then, maybe he comes back next year. And yeah, maybe he's never more than like tight end 3 in your offense, but he's just a valuable blocker who down in the goal line can be a big body that can turn around and Dak can throw it into his belly, really quickly, and he'll catch it. Like, I don't think he's anything more than that, honestly.
You mentioned a clunky mover. He is. He moves really weird. But he had a 7.03 3 cone. We just got done talking about Jordan Hudson at 199 pounds running a 7.22. I mean, a 7.03 for a 250-pound tight end is unbelievable. And that's what makes him such a unique talent. Is it looks awkward sometimes, but man, he can really sink his hips and move, in short areas. I'm fascinated by him. He's going to be one of these guys that I can guarantee you we're going to be watching in the preseason, and we're going to fall in love with him. I cannot wait to see him.
Yeah, that's you're asking about upside. That's your upside, because honestly, I saw that number, but he doesn't play like that. Like you don't see that dropping hips and changing direction. So he needs. So the point is that his testing shows that
you could do it in the testing. You just has to do it in the field. Yes,
exactly. So that's your upside, to see if you can actually get him to play with better pad level when he's running around on the field.
The guy that he's going to be competing against for a spot on the roster and maybe even the practice squad is Michael Trigg, who we'll talk about next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here and every possession matters. And if you're looking to get even closer to the action, FanDuel has a great offer to get you started. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's right, turn $5 into $150 in bonus bets just for getting started. I like using FanDuel during the playoffs because everything I need is right there all in one place. You can check stats, trends, and matchups before making your picks, which makes the entire experience make you feel a lot more informed. Unfortunately, you don't need to be more informed with this Lakers Thunder series. It's over. You can go ahead and bet on the Thunder to close it out on Monday night. That's not been a great series, but the rest of the playoffs have been so much fun. So head over to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. All right, Lena, Michael Trigg, we've talked about him once, but just in case new listeners have not got the opportunity to learn about Michael Trigg, this is a massive tight end out of Baylor, not in weight, 6'3", 240 pounds. But an 84.5-inch wingspan. I believe that would be like in the 98th percentile among all offensive linemen at the NFL Combine. 34-inch arms, 10.5-inch hands. He is a freak show athlete.
Yeah, I'll agree with you calling him massive, but it's only in a very specific way, right?
Yes, he's long.
He's very long, and he's got very big hands, right? And that very much is prescriptive to his game. Right. If you watch his game, like this is a guy who, we'll get to the stuff, but he has this kind of Joker type deployment at Baylor where he is, just basically going out there and being an athlete. They're throwing the ball to him close, and he's going out there and he's using his ability to go up and get the ball. I mean, he can't jump very high. That's what we did learn at the Combine, right?
I saw the pro day video. He either, I don't know which is worse. He either is a awful tester, right? Or he was banged up, or he didn't care. And I don't know which one's worse.
Because honestly, you watch it on tape, that's not necessarily what you see on tape. I see a guy who can go up and jump, get the ball, right?
That's why I think he just didn't care about the drill.
Well, again, which kind of speaks to what we're talking about here a little bit, right? That's also very prescriptive, right? So, I think, and basically they're just trying to find ways to get him the ball. You see it, basically it's a lot of like slants, like stop routes, they're, screen stuff. Even when he's blocking, he's completely unrefined. He has no skill set, really, right? He's just a physical presence. There's no precision to his hand or footwork as a receiver or a blocker, right? He's just basically going out there. Even as a receiver, he's going out there sometimes just running into the DB and then pushing 100%. Him off and then turning around and trying to catch the ball, right? He's a very physical player who uses that specific trait well, right? But he's got an abnormal body type, kind of a squatty torso with obviously insanely long arms and hands, like we said, but he's scrawny in the lower half. Right. So I even though he's 240-ish pounds, I don't really know how well of a tackle breaker how good of a tackle breaker he's going to be in the NFL at this point or early on. I think because he has big hands, because he's athletic vertically, he can go up and get the ball and he uses those go gadget arms to go get the ball and kind of beat guys above the rim. And the big hands help him also, if he catches the ball kind of in stride, to just, transition to receiver to runner very quickly. Mm-hmm. And I think that's very valuable. And that's why you do see a lot of yak with him in college. I don't know if he's going to break as many tackles in the NFL with where he is, but there's lots of just incredible catches all over his tape. He's an absolute mismatch receiving target. And that's why you're drafting him. But the question is is he enough of a mismatch to warrant him being on your roster? And what do you do with him besides deploy him as a receiving tight end? Everybody, especially down roster folks that are kind of the back end of your roster, they have to be able to do multiple things. I don't think this guy's refined enough in his technique to even be deployed as a tight end I can rely to run the route that I've told
No, that's not where you're using him as a slot receiver, right? And the comp that I've been giving is actually another former undrafted free agent. And this is the high end comp, so bear that in mind.
I think I know where you're going.
Well, he reminds me a lot of Julius Thomas, who played with the Broncos.
Oh, okay.
Julius Thomas was a former basketball player who was not a great route runner, was not a great blocker. He was a sub 250-pound tight end, but was really successful because Peyton Manning told him where to go and he'd get him the ball wherever he wanted to. And Julius Thomas had a massive wingspan and long arms and he could box out defenders. Again, that's a high-end comp, but you've got a quarterback that loves throwing the ball up the seam, that's incredibly accurate in Dak Prescott. But the last line of Dane Brugler's scouting report really says it all. He said, maturity has been questioned by NFL teams. One NFL scout said, I know he likes football, but he needs hard coaching. And luckily for Trigg, he got with maybe the best tight end coach in the league in Lunda Wells. If it was ever going to work out for him, it was going to work out here in Dallas. We'll see.
It's funny. I mean, I thought I knew who you were going to compare him to up until you said undrafted, because but I think we're kind of going in the same area here. Is I thought he kind of reminded me of in the way that he probably will be used, like of Dallas Clark. Right, same position, right? Same thing. That was right? The ball, same quarterback, right? Same situation, same offense, right? Same quarterback. Yep. And I think it's that kind of mismatched slot player, right? That is going to find a way to out physical smaller corners, outspeed slower safeties, right? And just find a way to kind of use his skill set to get the ball. I just don't know that he's refined enough to even be relied upon at this point. And that's why he fell all the way to being completely undrafted.
Really quickly before we go, the way for him to make this roster, I think two things need to happen. Number one, he needs to dominate as a receiver. Like that. Yeah. Simply put, he needs to be the best receiving tight end on this roster. And number two, and he actually can't control this. I think if Brevin Spann-Ford can take a big step up this year and push Luke Schoonmaker off the roster and have Brevin Spann-Ford be the clear-cut tight end too, I actually think that would open up a spot for Trigg, because you would have the guy that would come in on every 12 personnel in Brevin Spann-Ford with Jake Ferguson. And I think it would give you the ability to be a little bit more flexible at the back end of your roster. But if Spann-Ford is, he got banged up last year, or he hasn't taken a step as a receiver, maybe that's how they keep Luke Schoonmaker for one more year.
Yeah, and maybe he kind of steps up and plays the kind of Princeton Fant role, right? Where I have to take your guy, right? Where he's kind of half fullback, like a little bit of AF, right? Some tight end stuff, and definitely some special teams. If he can learn that, we just don't know because he hasn't done that. So we got to get him into camp, see what he can do.
All right, that is it for today's show. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. Make sure you subscribe and follow the podcast so you get all of the latest episodes. And if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Cowboys ad-free, plus members-only Discord access, and so much more. Head over to lockedoncowboys.supercast.com to join the club. And for those of you on video, we can send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel. And on audio, make your second listen the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. Follow Landon on Twitter @McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.